The following presentation of City Cinematheque was made possible, in part, by the support of the Taipei Cultural Center in New York, the Ministry of Culture of Taiwan. Welcome to City Cinematheque, where the art and pleasure of the movies are the subject of serious discussion. I'm your host, Jerry Carlson, and I teach film studies at the City College of the City University of New York. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the great filmmaking that's come from Taiwan in the 21st century. And indeed, today, we're screening one of the most popular films in the history of that industry, Cape No. 7. Now, on one hand, it's the kind of film that may be familiar because it's a, hey kids, let's put on a show film, and delightful as such. But there's a second story involved, and it's a story that takes us back into the Japanese colonial presence in the island of Taiwan. This film is a landmark of Taiwanese cinema and a delight and a moving piece of filmmaking from beginning to end. After today's screening, I'll be having a discussion with the director of the film in Taipei City, Taiwan. So be sure to stay tuned. In the meantime, enjoy Cape No. 7. Welcome back to City Cinematheque. As I promised you, we would not be in the CUNY TV studios after today's film, but in fact, we are in the offices of the filmmaker of Cape No. 7. Wei Dexing. This is one of the most important and successful commercially and artistically films of the Taiwanese cinema of the 21st century. It was a box office sensation. And now we have a chance to talk with the creator of this film, and it was his first feature film as a director. Welcome to City Cinematheque, Dexing. It's a pleasure to have you here today. So, there are many paths to becoming a filmmaker. So tell us and tell our audience a little bit about how you came to this moment, how you became a filmmaker, and then how you decided that this film, which turns out to be a blockbuster hit, became your first film.
It was by accident that I became a film director, a total accident. Actually, when I was serving in the Taiwanese army, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life in the future. It happened that one of my friends in the army was a film fan. He took me to a lot of famous Taiwanese movies which he knew. Actually, I wasn't a stranger to movies. When I was little, I went to the movies a lot, since I lived around the temple, Maokao area. There was a movie theater there. Movies played in the theater, and also in an open cinema outside the theater, in the temple's front yard. So these movies made me dream that maybe, one day, I could make a living by telling stories, by making movies. How cool would that be? No need to work for someone. Make a living by telling stories. That was my romantic dream. Then I thought that I should stay in Taipei. I gave myself 2 to 3 years to see if I could break into the movie industry or make TV shows. At that time, I didn't dream of being a director, only to have a part in the movie business, to make movies or TV shows. After I worked on productions for a while, I felt that I wanted to tell my own stories. I had stories to tell. I wondered if it would be possible to tell the stories my own way. That's probably how I got started. Why did I want to make Cape Number 7? You may not believe this, but to this day, for all the movies we shot, Cape Number 7 is the last script I wrote.
海角七号反而是我们最晚完成的一个剧本，对我来说最后完成的一个剧本。但是海角七号这个剧本
To be honest, to me, writing the Cape Number 7 script was for me a kind of therapy. At that time, I wanted to make the film Sidi Kbal, but I couldn't get the funding I needed. So I took all the frustrations and rejections I experienced during the fundraising and put them into the Cape Number 7 script. For example, Taiwan's indigenous language, Taiwan's local dialect, nobody cared. Sponsors only wanted international big stars. So I took all these so-called fundraising negative points and put them into the Cape Number 7 script. I wanted to see if I could turn into a more interesting commercial film. That's how I started to write Cape Number 7. At the beginning, I was only venting my frustrations, but slowly, as I was writing, the story drew me in deeper and deeper.
So I think international audiences who may not know so much about the history of Taiwan know more about the relationship between Taiwan and China than the relationship of Taiwan to Japan, or the fact that Taiwan is an island with a rich indigenous culture. So tell us a little bit about your selection of this very multicultural and historically grounded story that has so much to do with Japan and Taiwan, as well as the diversity of people living in Taiwan itself.
I want to talk about the thought I had before making the film and the audience's feedback after they saw the movie. The story started with a simple news article from the newspaper. An old postman received a letter with an old address dating back to when the Japanese occupied Taiwan. It takes him a long time to finally deliver the letter to the right address. I found this story very moving. If it was a love letter, it would be a great story. At that time, I thought, Japan is located in the far north, and Taiwan is in the far south. If a love letter sent from snowy Japan 60 years ago reaches the city of Tainan on the southern tip of Taiwan, where the sun shines all year long, I said to myself, let's go check out the locations Kending and Tenchong first. I drove to these towns and stayed there for 3 or 4 days each, just to observe without any pressure, without any preconceived ideas. I discovered that Tenchong is an interesting place. It has everything: mountains, ocean, a 5-star hotel, and it also has an ancient city entrance. It has loud modern music and quiet ancient Yeongcheon too. There are indigenous people, Hakka, Minnan, all mixed together. Everything seems in conflict, but these conflicted elements together coexist in harmony. So I decided that this theme would fit my story better. I wanted to tell a story about North and South, Japan and Taiwan, a man and a woman, from past to present. A love story that would be very interesting. So I wanted to put all elements that are in conflict into this film, see if it could spark some interest, especially in Taiwan's environment. Because Taiwan, 10 to 15 years ago to today, continues to be surrounded by questions like, should we abandon the old traditions? Or should we accept the new way of doing things and more? My idea was that we shouldn't throw away old traditions, We shouldn't be afraid of new things either. We should put them together to generate a good mixture for today. At that time, I didn't even think about Japanese colonialism in Taiwan. My focus point was that when the Japanese left, what was the regret? If it was a love story, that letter, the separation between the lovers, must have been caused by this era. That point would be interesting too. So far, all Taiwanese movies were about someone coming. Japanese came, KMT came, somebody will come, but no movies about somebody leaving. I wanted to make a movie about the end of an era. I used the Japanese departure as a starting point, not the coming of the KMT. By using this new perspective, I examined the environment of 60 to 70 years ago. So I made this film. At that time, I never thought about Japan, China, and Taiwan's complex political problems, not at all, until now. After the movie ran for so long, for me subconsciously, I thought it might melt away some conflict and regret in the Taiwanese mind. Taiwan is always caught in the middle between Japan and China. One is a birth father, the other is an adopted father. I'm always saying Taiwan should have grown up already and not be a child anymore. Have you heard a 60 to 70-year-old man keep saying, I'm an orphan, that's why my life is so miserable? How old are you? You are already a grown man. You are supposed to be independent. You can't keep using the same excuse. I'm always saying it is time to face our history to stop the blame. This is something I've been thinking about recently. After much feedback from the audience, I feel maybe the movie has some magic power to diffuse people's feelings about this subject. Of course, this is a film for Taiwanese audiences. I am not looking for foreigners' acceptance. To me, so many people live in Taiwan. We have so many internal injuries in our minds that we haven't healed. With these injuries that haven't healed, we keep looking for ways to look strong on the outside. It's like a person who has an injury of an internal organ and tries to grow a lot of muscle outside. That's useless. The hurt is still there. The body is still weak. So I think if it is possible to use this story to heal the injury in our heart, allowing us to move on.
In addition to all of the different languages you have in the film, the people from different parts of the world, of the island, of different classes, this is also a film that's very interesting because of the different tones and the different genres in the film. It's a film that has comedy, it's a film that has romance, it has a film that has comment on globalization, it's a film that looks into local politics and larger global politics. So there's a remarkable balance of all of that in the film, making a whole. What were some of the challenges in putting that balance together?
Actually, it wasn't too hard to write. When I was writing the script, I was very happy. I was writing very fast. It took about 1 month from when I had the idea for the story to finish the script, a little over a month. When I was writing, I only had this love story in my mind, not thinking too much about the international elements I mentioned before. No such burdens. I was only thinking about the character development. What should the character say? I was only thinking about the character development. What should the character say? How to advance the plot is completely moved by the story, without having to think too much about it. I feel that I have been living my life seriously. My feelings have subconsciously been reflected in the characters' conversation. That's possibly what happened.
就是无意间就会反映在角色的对话里、故事的情节里，应该是这个原因。因为我记得
I remember that I didn't prepare much then and started right away.
功课就直接下手了这样子。
I think audiences find this film so satisfying because it has such a powerful ending, but it actually has two endings. It has the ending of the, hey, let's put on a show, a very traditional kind of plot device that allows so many wonderful things to happen in the film. But it also has the completion of the other story, the story of the past. What response have people had to this, I think, very powerful ending to the film, this double ending to the film?
其实原本最后一场戏哈，就是要
Actually, when we were shooting the second ending, our equipment investor objected because that scene was very expensive to shoot.
因为那一场其实还蛮贵的。可是我觉得
That scene alone would cost a few million Taiwanese yen. Since our budget was limited, the investors were against shooting it.
可是我们的预算很有限，又要花个几百万，其实他们都反对，他们甚至把我
They called me in and told me it's too expensive to shoot the second ending because we were over budget already. And we already had a very good ending and didn't need the second ending. But at that time, I always felt that that scene was very important. So I told them, do you remember? It doesn't matter how many girlfriends you have. You always remember your first girl. It doesn't matter how many fights you've had with your wife. You still remember the moment you met her for the first time. So if a love story doesn't come back to where it started, then it isn't finished. So the movie would not have a complete ending. If we can follow the letter going back to that era, that would be very moving.
跟着那封信一样回到那封信的原点的那个时间，这样子。我觉得那个东西会感动人。我自己其实我在写剧本的时候，
When I started this script, I had already decided this ending. The beginning and the ending decided before I started. The ending was to return to the letter's starting point, and I like that ending very much.
我也非常喜欢那个结局。事实上，
Later events confirmed that I was right to insist shooting that scene. I always remembered the moment when I told the story's ending to the investor.
给投资人或是讲故事给朋友听的时候，我每次讲到这
Only my words alone brought on their
就用
tears.
讲的，对方就会流眼泪。所以我觉得
So the ending scene is very important.
电影演到那个
Every
地方
time the movie was shown, audiences were always moved by it. It's the most moving moment. The emotion is so pure and so simple at that point.
So it's now over a decade later. The media landscape has changed, and clearly you've continued making films. You already made 2 more films. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, what your future as a storyteller is.
Actually, what I'm working on right now is a script I wrote before Cape Number 7. I finished this script 18 years ago. Now I believe I'm capable of finishing that movie. I want to reveal what Taiwan looked like 400 years ago. Reveal history from the Heian people's point of view, Han Chinese point of view, and indigenous people's point of view. There will be 3 movies, each independent from the others.
还有汉人的角度，还有西拉雅人的角度，就是原住民的角度，3种角度来诠释一个时代，其实是3部电影各自分开存在，但是一个时代。3部电影
3 movies that will start with the Dutch coming to Taiwan, all end with Zheng Jinggong coming to Taiwan from China.
那这个非常的庞大。
This is a huge project. I've been doing it little by little. Now I can focus my attention on it.
最近才开始比较密集的在集中火力在全力这个案子这样。
Although there were a lot of difficulties, the project is on track. It should be okay.
So there have been so many changes in technology and in venues and in platforms. What's your best wish for the Taiwanese cinema of the future, the cinema of this island?
This is a huge topic, and it will take a long time to explore. But actually, what we need to do right now is to think about how to overcome the feeling of panic. Movies nowadays are more and more four-dimensional, especially Taiwanese movies. With the rising of other powerful platforms, movies in theaters around the world are going downhill. The only surviving genre is a huge commercial movie giving audiences special sound and sight experiences that can only happen in movie theaters. Other films will gradually move to the internet, and this is also the fate of the Taiwanese film. I feel this is the destiny that I am reluctant to accept. When you look at Hollywood movies with their special effects, how can I match them? Even if you give me 100 years, I still couldn't. If my traveling speed is 10 to 20 miles per hour, how can I catch someone traveling 100 miles per hour? So what kind of audience should I be looking for? Slowly, I wonder if it is possible one day neither to use Hollywood standards nor to compete on the internet platform. Is it possible to use the Broadway musical's formula to approach movie funding? I'm not talking about making musical movies. I mean to use the Broadway show investment formula of a limited space, taking longer to get the returns from the box office. It's not like traditional movie releases, with many theaters running a movie at the same time for a very short time. When you compete with a giant, if we use his rules to do things, we will fail. When we face a giant, we should think about how we can compete. This is my own view. But facing the world trend, I don't want to give up. Can such a huge movie be made and finished on a small budget? Nobody wants to make a big film with costly scenes. Because budgets are getting smaller and smaller, screening platforms are more and more limited to the internet. I always want to try to show the movie in one space for a long time, as long as 50 to 100 years. If the film is worth running for that long, it would have the vitality to last. A movie's subject should take its distribution into consideration. If I shot something like Cape Number 7, I would collaborate with the internet, because the internet has a short-term effect. If I want to do something I'm doing now, or make a movie like Sidak Bao that can run for a long time, then it should be supported by using the Broadway show formula. This is one of my ideas. It's a challenge. So as I always say, before the Cape Number 7, I had to face Hollywood, the huge giant, one person fighting only one giant. Now, young movie makers have to face more difficulties. 3 giants, besides Hollywood: the rise of the Chinese market, and the rise of internet media. None of them can be defeated easily. This is what we face now. All of these obstacles must be solved by any movie director. But for me, I'm looking for a change of strategy, not to keep fighting with the old giant.
跟他硬拼硬斗这样子，这是不是一个方法？这是我的看法。
Daxing, let me thank you again for being here on City Cinematheque and sharing your thoughts about your own filmmaking and about the filmmaking on the island and the nation of Taiwan. It's been a privilege being here, and I just want to express my gratitude for your cooperation.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for tuning in once again to City Cinematheque and sharing with us these experiences of the 21st century Taiwanese cinema. Please join us again here on City Cinematheque as we continue to stroll through the archives of film history. For now, it's goodbye. The preceding presentation of City Cinematheque was made possible, in part, by the support of the Taipei Cultural Center in New York, the Ministry of Culture of Taiwan.